All right, so welcome back. We got more MLB preseason predictions, evaluations. I don't remember what we're calling these anymore. Report cards.
There you
This
go.
is you. Uh, uh, once again, I'm Matt. This is Blow Up the Team. This is Jeremy with me as my
Yeah,
cohort.
ignore that. I'm sorry. That's from the video that came out earlier today on the Ravens. We're filming them
Very
back to back.
professional. Very
We're filming them
professional.
back to back, man. It's late. I'm just trying to get stuff set up here. I was trying to get it
Showing
quick.
effort.
You know what?
Fans will appreciate it.
You're so excited about this Orioles video. I didn't want to hold you up anymore. I just wanted to let you get started on it.
Yeah, let me tell you how exciting the Baltimore Orioles are in 2020. And let me, sorry, I'm starting to drool a little bit. I'm starting to fall asleep. Orioles fans, I'm sorry. That's all I can really say. This team is not going to be good.
Come on,
Yeah,
man. They got Chris Davis, the old home run king. Come on now.
listen, if Chris Davis can hit like he was hitting in spring, then this team will be fun to watch just for that. And actually, you know what? Chris Davis makes this team fun to watch. Watching him, there's an amazing guy, Chris Davis HQ. He started off, he said, I'm going to post a picture of Chris Davis every day before he gets a three-hit game because he didn't record a three-hit game in 2018. And he wasn't hitting at all in 2019. And then, like, on his second or third day of posting, he has that three-hit game in Fenway where he hits the, first two base hits, like 64 at bats, and then hits a fucking bomb home run. He's like, okay, Chris Davis hates me. but and then he turned to a meme page. But anyway, so great. You got Chris Davis. Cool. Um, the lineup, it's a lot of guys who are, you want to see develop. It's a lot of guys who are just not like people like Renato Nunez and Dwight Smith and Jose Iglesias. Like they're gonna be like role fillers and bench players who are in your starting lineup. One thing I will say, RotoChamp is high. If you could click on bench real fast for me. This pissed me off. You notice that first name on the list right there? That was that's Trey Mancini. If you want to click on his baseball reference page real fast, their best player on their fucking team last year. Hit 35 home runs, 97 RBIs, you know, batted 291. Like that is your best player. And it says, oh, he's going to be on the bench. No, don't get me wrong. It says bench with 400 plate appearances, which is not at bats, which is nuts. But I'm sorry, it's high. Like, there's no way he's getting more play. Like Austin Hayes or Dwight Smith are getting more playing time if it means that putting Trey Mancini on the bench. He doesn't seem to hate Baltimore, which is like another great fact about him. So Trey Mancini is really like the first, really one of the two notable names I want to talk about on your lineup, because really like Anthony Santander, I guess, like is an interesting prospect, an interesting player who I think had a you know decent run last year in the time he played, and so I think he could be interesting again to this year and see if he can. He only had 261, but he had like a really hot streak, and I feel like he could be someone that maybe can perform better, become a solid part of a team that you can trade for prospects. That's the other thing you need to understand about the Orioles this year. These people that they have on their team, you're hoping that they develop themselves enough that you can get prospects, unless they're like insanely young. And just quick down, like Renato Nunez is on the young side. Santander is young. Like those guys, you want them to be young so that they can get traded, or you can you know hope to in the next 20 years when the Orioles are good again, maybe still be there, which let's be honest, probably isn't happening.
Well,
So
real quick, where do you see Trey Mancini, however you pronounce his last name? Where do you see him? Like, whose starting spot do you see him taking?
well, he's not taking any starting spot. He has a starting spot. I think this
Well,
projection is ass.
according to RotoChamp, right? They've got Santander, or however the hell you want to pronounce his name, Austin Hayes and Dwight Smith. So which of those three is going to be moved back to the bench?
Dwight Smith or Austin Hayes. Dwight Smith like has shown some stuff. Austin Hayes hitting in the four hole. Like what kind of crack are they smoking? Like hello? He played 21 games last year. I'm pretty sure he was the one with an absolute nuts catch on the last day of the season. But having a nuts catch in one game and playing 21 games in the big leagues isn't a fucking promotion to four-hole hitter. It's projecting him at two. It's projecting him at 239. Like what the fuck? And then you
Yeah,
look
they're
at
also
the.
predicting Chris Davis at 187, so there's that.
But yeah, but that's accurate because Chris Davis hasn't hit 200 even in a season recently. So in
I
the last two
remember I went to
seasons.
Baltimore because my dad and I are trying to go to the all the baseball parks over a bunch of years, and I don't remember exactly what year was it. Maybe it was this season here, in 2014, because I would have been going into high school. It was the year I went into high school, so I guess it would have been 2014. We went and they gave out a shirt that day that I still have upstairs somewhere that said "Crush Davis" on it. It's the only
Oh yeah,
thing Baltimore Orioles that I have.
him and the other Chris Davis from Oakland have the exact same fucking nickname. And this guy used to be like the real deal. He don't get me wrong, he never hit for average. Even in 2014, he hit 196, but he hit 20 something home runs. And he hit 33, 53, 26, 47, thirty-eight,
This
20.
was the year. 2013 was the year that he lost. I don't know, 53 home runs. That's a little insane. And then he
Like
just
he's
fell off a
never
cliff.
he's never been an average hitter, I think. And he just, he and that's the thing. He never tries to adjust his swing. When you watch him swing, he's swinging with the exact same approach every time, and he doesn't try to you know, he's never changed it. And he leaves the same holes in his swing. To say pitchers can predict what he's going to try and go for. But I'm not going to get too caught up on Chris Davis because Chris Davis is just. I hope he can, start hitting like he used to, because just to make his contract look less shit. But the Orioles, even when they signed him, were like on the way out from postseason contention anyway, and now they're just entirely out of it. It's just a waste of money. But anyway, the most interesting person for me personally is Hanser Alberto, their projected leadoff hitter. He had 85 or plus hits against left-handed pitching last year, which was best for the majors and the most since 2004. And this guy in limited time with Texas didn't really show too much promise. Hit. Let me just see here because this thing's like, oh no, oh god. Sometimes baseball reference like it looks nice, and sometimes it looks like ass. Love baseball reference in general though. Where am I? Okay, yes. So he had like three stints with the Rangers over the course of 4 seasons. Never hitting above 222, and then he gets a full chance with the Orioles, and he's just slapping base hits all over the place, hitting over 305, which is actually the first time the Orioles had like a hitter above 300 in like almost 10 years. Just nuts. You think the Orioles won a shitload of games over the course of a few years?
Honestly, so I have a very limited window into the baseball world, but I do fantasy baseball. I usually do one league a year just because some friends from high school run it. It seemed to be the story, like that seemed to be the prevailing story from last year outside of the loaded baseballs that were flying all over the park. There seemed to be a lot of guys that were either like lost or they were just kind of like your run of the mill like kind of average hitters that just popped off last season and came from
Yeah,
seemingly nowhere.
they're just like you got Hanser up there. No, he never really had a chance, and he finally got his chance, and he's playing in a. He went from one hitter friendly park to another hitter friendly park. Sometimes it's just a change of atmosphere. And sometimes just getting a real shot, not just like, oh, you're here because of someone's injured. He's like that can change a player. And you had like Gio Urshela, who never had much time in the main. Who had some time, a decent amount of time in the majors, but never really broke out. And then comes to Yankees and just hits like doesn't stop hitting the entire time he's up and the entire season. And now Miguel Andujar has to compete with him. Like
And
Miguel
then
Andujar almost won Rookie of the Year. Um,
who was that kid out in LA, the Dodgers? Who am I thinking of?
oh God, there's a couple. There was a lot of people who hit really well. There was like I don't know. Well, I don't know if necessarily like people who didn't hit because like Gavin Lux came onto the scene, but he was a prospect and he still is a prospect. Uh, I know that the Angels they
I'll
had
do
Tommy
some
La
research
Stella.
off on the side over here.
The
Continue.
Angels, Tommy La Stella started hitting really well. He'd been like a bench player for the Cubs for a bunch of years, and had never been like people, liked him, but he was never like really that star. And he just started hitting the cover off the ball. Of course, he got injured, but still. And then they also have David Fletcher, who hits like crazy. So, um, hey, Hanser Alberto, actually, he kind of reminds me of
Jock Peterson. Sorry, Jock Peterson was the guy I was talking about from the Dodgers. It just seemed like, you know, his average from 2018 to 2019 didn't necessarily move like a ton, but I started hearing his name more and more for some reason, and it just seemed like there was a lot of people that seemed like, he went from just being, oh yeah, yeah, he's there, that's Jock, to like there was a lot of guys that were talking about like, oh, like, he's really showing some promise this season, and here, just so you can see what I'm talking about, like, oh, he's really showing some promise this year, and it's like he had played, a lot of games for seasons before that, but just it seemed like this year I was hearing a lot more about him for some reason, like it, and that was the story for the whole year, like it just seemed like there was a lot of guys that um just they had been kind of like lost in the it had been a star predominant league where it was this like the top elite players were getting all of the press, and then guys like him were just kind of getting lost in the media a little bit. But it seemed like maybe it was just a media thing where they focused more this year on those guys who, they're still
I think
impactful
that's a lot.
players.
Like you look at the Yankees, they had the injuries flew, and they had Gio Urshela, they had like a million guys come up who just came in and started hitting. You have Mike Ford, who though his first two stints were too good, his third stint he stayed with the team for the postseason. Like he was hitting like he even started hitting, going on a hitting tear. Like they, lots of guys coming in, people who never had a chance, hitting, and it's an inspiring story for a lot of people because like you hear about the superstars all the time, they're always going to be there. These guys, maybe Gio Urshela comes back and he doesn't hit nearly as well, but you know what? Everyone's gonna think about his fucking 2019 season. And like
Same with DJ
not
LeMahieu.
well, DJ LeMahieu. By the way, DJ LeMahieu, when like last year, when people were like, "This is the guy the Yankees got in the offseason." First of all, those people are morons. They never fucking heard of DJ LeMahieu before. This guy was a former batting champion and all-star for the Rockies for 10 years, and the Rockies let him go, just let him walk.
It
And
looks
he
like
was
he
an
was only a All-Star 2 years, 2015, 2017, unless that's not what that star means.
uh, the number of all-star. No, the number of all-stars has nothing to do with it.
Oh, I
I don't
thought
think
that's
that.
what you. I thought you just said he was an all-star for 10 years. I was like, huh?
No, I said he's an all-star. He played in. I mean, like he played in Colorado for 10 years.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Like this guy's like a former, like an all-star caliber player who hits. He was just a pure hitter, like absolute steal. And so people didn't have expectation. He didn't have. He had a good season in
I think that
Colorado.
maybe 2019. It looked like it looked just from a quick glance at Baseball Reference. I don't know anything. You're the baseball guy. It just seems like in 2018, his average was down a little bit, and it looks like he was a pretty uh, in his best seasons. He was batting for a high average, and so to drop it down to 276 is probably a little disheartening. So they didn't know what to
Yeah, and he
expect.
also was injured in 2018, but like just in general, like, he comes to New York and he's just hits better than he ever had in his career. He hits more home runs, he has over 100 RBIs as a leadoff hitter, and struck out only 90 times in a season. But
Anyways,
anyway, to get back to what I was wanting to talk about, because we were way off topic.
Hanser Alberto.
Hanser Alberto, he uh, he kind of profiles like he reminds me of Tim Anderson in a way because Tim Anderson hits a lot of baseballs. He doesn't have the power of Tim Anderson, but the way they hit, they don't walk a lot. They strike out. But Hans Alberto doesn't strike out a lot. Like he struck out 50 times last year in oh god, I just lost my place. In 139 games, Tim Anderson played 123 games and struck out 109 times. Like, so he doesn't strike out a lot. If he can work on that plate discipline, like he could be a really interesting player for them for a number of years, or it'd be a really interesting trade chip for a lot of teams because he can hit lefties so well. So that'd be really interesting to see. The talking about pitching for the Orioles is gonna take me about 5 minutes. So there's your bright spots. You have one bright spot as a pitcher. you have John Means on your team. John Means came up and like he played a couple. I think he made one appearance in 20. Yeah, he made one appearance in 2018. Wasn't too great. Came up, was having like all-star caliber stuff through the first half, and was a bright spot on a team that desperately needed one. And you know, every team gets an all-star, and he was the Baltimore Orioles all-star, and it wasn't like he felt like a guy who was just there because he was on the Orioles and they needed an all-star. Like he felt like he earned it because he was pretty solid. And this guy is going to be developed. I don't think he's going to necessarily trade chip right now because he's got 6 more years on his, no, 5 more years on his rookie contract. You got plenty of time to develop him to see if you guys can develop a team fast enough to that he'll be a solid. He'll be able to lead any rotation, and so he's really interesting to me. Like I like his pitching style. He's very fastball changeup. I'm gonna. I don't have. He's not trying to overpower anyone. He's gonna play to his strengths. He doesn't strike out like a guy in an inning, but he'll let you ground out all over the place. People like Hans Roberto who are very good fielders behind you, that works. So and then the starters that just go right downhill. You got Alex Cobb, who's been kind of awful, to say the least. I think he's awful in 2018. He had a good 2017, and then just terrible 20. He used to be really good. Like he had a couple of really good years, but like the past 2 seasons, injury and bad. And so, if he can stay healthy and show any sort of promise that he did when he came up with the Rays, that'll be something to look out for. But not too much else. Azure Wojciechowski, uh, not hasn't really shown much over his time in the majors thus far for the past 3 seasons. Maybe he can turn himself into a solid enough arm that he gets traded, but not much to look for there. You got Wade LeBlanc, who's been up forever, who's been pitching forever, and again, not too much to get excited about. He had a terrible season last year, and they just need someone to be there, really. Tommy Malone as your fifth starter, another case of just at his best, he's okay. So have to wait and see what becomes of them, obviously, because it only takes one season to turn someone's story around, but not much to look for in your starters. And then we'll move on to the bullpen, which is not it's a joke. It's a really bad joke. Um, you got some interesting names like Miguel Castro, who have stuff that looks like it could be lethal if you just could figure out how to stop getting it rocketed out of the ballpark. Like he can strike a lot of guys out if he doesn't. That's his thing. Like, it looks like he should be striking guys out. He's got super high velocity. Actually, his velocity ticked up last year from 2018. He's got 95 plus fastball and a strong breaking ball. Well, it should be a strong breaking ball, but he just can't look. He's just not. Something's not clicking. And so, if he could start to show, if he could figure out his problems and start to show something, he could be a really strong bullpen arm who he can trade and get prospects for. But really, like so something needs to click that it hasn't been clicking. Got Michael Givens, who's your projected closer. It's talking about the Orioles bullpen. Like anyone who was there last year sucked. Like everyone sucked. Like there was not a single like good thing to write home about this bullpen last year. Like Michael Givens, I think has stuff that could play out relatively well because he's once again 95 average fastball can always play out if you can work it well, and so it all depends. But there's really like nothing that could even there's nothing to write home about here. You got some. You actually have Hector Velasquez in the minors, who pitched for the Red Sox a little bit actually a lot of it last year out of the bullpen, and maybe you can get something there if he like shows some promise. But there really isn't too much to talk about in the bullpen. Your bench, once again, not much to write home about. There's not one name here that just makes you say, "Oh yeah, this is our guy that's gonna have a great year." Like it's just there's nothing there. However, where there is something is your prospects, which is the only bright spot, if you can call it a bright spot, because they're not going to affect you this year. Adley Rutschman is your first round draft for overall pick from 2018. No, yeah, 2018 draft, this past year's draft, and he looks, you know, he's not going to make the team, but he's already made his first spring training. He's probably not making the team this year. Actually, he's definitely not making the team this year, but he's uh, he's a top catching prospect for a reason. He's known as a really good hitter. He didn't hit too well in his he hit 250 in Class A and High A, but you have to wait and see how he develops. But he looks like he could genuinely become a solid pro. I don't like to say much about prospects in baseball because they're so volatile, but you know, give it a year or two, and I think you'll see Adley Rutschman making his Orioles debut because that's the advantage of being a guy like Adley Rutschman who has a good skill set that can develop. Is you can move through the minors quickly, hopefully not too quickly, because if you pull him up like insanely early, like next year or something stupid, you could ruin his progress. But that's something to look out for. That's a little glimmer of hope. Got a couple of pitching prospects. I don't really know. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and out of Grayson Rodriguez and TL Hall, but maybe they can make some sort of impact. Getting called up. Ryan Mountcastle is the only other one I can really tell you. He's projected to be a fairly solid first baseman. He only hit 234, but he's one of the better hitters in the minors, and that could be enough to put Chris Davis on the bench. And so he's someone to look out for. Austin Hayes, of course, had his first taste of major league action. Well, not his first taste of major league action. He played in 2017, but his first real taste. And I'm not gonna say that hitting 300 is a fluke, but if he can hit like he did when he came up to the majors, maybe he can be a consistent performer. But these are the prospect. Yeah, your prospects are the only thing that give you hope for the future, and it's a few years away. So to the report card lineup. I'm gonna give it a D for the lineup. I'm not gonna lie. You know what? It sucks. Your lineup sucks. There's no way to look around it. But Trey Mancini's fun to watch, and Dante Alberto's a lot of fun to watch. Bullpen F. I don't
Jesus,
know what would be
man,
worse,
show a little
F
mercy.
minus or F plus. No, there's no mercy to be had. That bullpen sucks ass. There is nothing redeeming about that bullpen.
Hey,
Like,
we're called New Jersey Hotheads for a reason, I guess.
listen, if you give there's nothing to good about that bullpen.
Listen, you're the
I,
baseball, you're the baseball guy, not me. So I'm gonna take your word on it. Just seems
I
a
ain't
little
gonna
harsh.
fucking sit here and try to listen. If the one Orioles fan who watches videos about listen, if you're an Orioles fan watching videos about the projections for the 2020 Orioles, that you're that diehard and you know what to expect. You know you're not gonna hear anything good. Um,
Flame him in
the
the comments.
starters,
Flame him in the I'm kidding. Don't do that. Sorry, continue.
I'm tempted to give it an F because I just don't see how it turns out well for them. But I'm gonna give them a D there too because at least they have John Means. Maybe Alex Cobb could do something. It feels so wrong to give them. It feels like I should be giving them Fs. Uh, I don't think they're the worst team in the majors though, because there is one team that is significantly worse. I think. Like not even significantly worse. I think there's just one team that's worse, but we'll get to that later. So overall, I guess that rounds out to a D minus overall. Like it's just the sun ain't shining for a while in Baltimore. Camden will be empty for a few years. Yeah,
I feel bad for all the Baltimore Orioles fans out there.
yeah, for like all five of you. Yeah.
Come on, man. Listen, true fans stick with their team to thick and thin. I'm still a
I will
Knicks
say, there's this
fan,
one
but the
girl who I knew
Knicks
in
are
high school.
atrocious.
Listen, Knicks fans, like, you hate yourselves, you hate your team, you hate
The owner,
uh,
man,
uh Jim, you
Dolan.
hate Dolan. Jesus Christ, you hate him. Everyone hates him. Like, I think hate fuels you. I think that's what happens. Um, like it's.
You know what? How about the Baltimore fans out there,
I will say there
Orioles
was one
fans?
girl I knew in high school who is a diehard Orioles fan, and goes to like will take road trips to go see a couple games a season. I respect the shit out of it. Actually, she posted a really hilarious picture a couple years back. It was in 2018. It's like, well, at least I got to see Machado play one more time, and I actually got to see a win. I haven't seen one, because the other previous road trips had all been loss, 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 loss.
Here's another fun Orioles fact from my travels to different parks. I went to Chicago, I went to the Chicago White Sox Orioles game, and it was the game that he had his first three at bats, three home runs. So, you know, I guess we can reminisce in memories for you Orioles fans out there.
Memories of better times.
But for any of those any of you Orioles fans out there, um, if you're interested in other sports, you got the Ravens right across town, one of the best teams in football. So maybe we
Yeah,
get
you got that going for you.
we get lost in preseason Ravens hype and pretend that the Orioles season isn't happening. I could see that happening. And if you are interested in seeing how their off season's going, I did make a. It's more focused on the draft than the off season as a whole, but came out earlier today. Like we brought up, there was a glimmer of earlier because of the
Coming out
technical
earlier
difficulty.
today, later today, but earlier today when you're going to see this video.
Well, yes, later today for us, but This is going up at
I,
6.
I know. I don't know why I bothered saying that. Just ignore me.
Hey man, it's 4 a.m. in typical us fashion. So, um,
Yeah, I was proud
but
of us yesterday for doing this at 2 o'clock in the morning.
listen, we were ready to do it at 10. We were, and then we
Dumbass friends are like, "Hey, go play league with us." And we're like, "Sure." And then the one guy just fucking disappears and comes back. He cooked himself salmon, like
uh,
corn,
rice.
cheese sticks, rice,
The kid just eats, man. He just eats, and I
and he's
respect
like a
it.
third of my size. It's like, what the fuck?
But
I
yeah. So go ahead and check that out. For any of you who are looking for a bright spot in Baltimore sports, go ahead over to the Baltimore Ravens draft video. Um, but other than that, you have any? How do you want to end this off? I had my plug, so now it defers back to you.
um, I'm sorry.
Rest in peace. One time for the one time.
No, just I'm sorry.
That's all you got for them.
That's all I got. I'm sorry. Pick, if they, I haven't, you know, the advantage of being a Yankees fan is the team, even when it sucks, is like still has a decent amount, gets a decent amount of wins. Like we haven't, been below 500. Just do what I think you should do is you should pick a team that you like that looks like it's going to be okay, and spend some time with their Twitter fans and pick a secondary team to root for and be happy with.
Or you could do what I do, going back to the basketball world. Knicks fan over here. The Knicks are
Just
so bad. Pick a
pick a
player.
fucking team player to simp for. Like,
Okay, you can back off on the simp word, buddy. Just because I like LeBron doesn't mean you have to like it.
man, I swear to God, like every time like you get a chance to talk about LeBron, it's like I literally you started talking about LeBron earlier today. I actually took my fucking headset off. Like, I don't remember what you were saying. Like, it was something.
Me neither.
Like you were just talking. You were just
Oh
like when
no.
you get on a
Okay.
roll about LeBron.
To be fair, that was a valid thing because we were arguing about what's going on in the NBA right now with one of our friends, and that's why I brought it up. But
Oh yes, and
that was a
but no,
valid thing I
but
was
he doesn't
talking
just
about.
say, if you're like LeBron and you're like a superstar, you want to play. He says, if you're LeBron and you spend every day crafting your
To be
sport,
fair, no.
you
Put some
then
respect
bring
on my
you
name. I also,
basketball.
I also, I also brought up other stars as well. It wasn't just LeBron that I brought up. I named other guys. I listed off other guys. It's not, I
Oh,
just
yes,
started
but I
there.
know. But the way you just fucking started at that, and it's not the first time I've heard you go off like
Yeah, and
that either.
you have every chance you get, you bring up the Yankees, man. So you simp for the Yankees, man. What's up with
Fuck
your
yeah, I sim for the Yankees. That whole fucking
back?
25-man roster, I'll sim for every damn one of them.
So how you
I'll
gonna
sim
get
for
on
the
my ass?
40-man.
Listen, listen. This is a generational
Oh my god, end the
era,
video.
era,
End the
era for
video.
sports.
End,
This is a
end the
gener.
fucking video.
No, I'm
End the
gonna.
fucking
I'm
video.
making a legit point. For so we don't talk a lot about Corona, about what's going on, but I do just want to bring up one thing about Corona really quickly. This is going to be an interesting year for sports because of the fact that we had seasons postponed. We have mid-season for the NBA, preseason for baseball was cut off and postponed. So um, I'm interested to see personally. This is not necessarily specifically Orioles related, but just in general to sports in general. I'm interested to see how the all the leagues can kind of bounce back from Corona, and what to expect from them going forward. If we're going to start to see like foundational changes in them, kind of reflecting how serious this was. See, I had a legit point. You didn't need to tell me to fuck off. That was a little rude.
I regret nothing.
You regret that? Of course you don't.
I regret nothing. I apologize for nothing.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. But anyways, I'll let you in the video now. I just had to say that.
All right. So once again, I'm sorry. Go Trey Mancini. Yeah, go Trey Mancini. Go Hunter Alberto. Enjoy your two glimmers of decent baseball players before they probably get traded.
Oof. That's a yikes from you. But
No, you're supposed to just cut it off there. You're supposed to end it there. Just like let the
well,
video end
because
right after that.
there's something you forgot to say in it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go subscribe, drop a follow to our social media, join the Discord. Please, for the love of God, join the Discord. And
Like, comment, subscribe, and then now you can say that.
enjoy Trey Mancini and Hunter Alberto before they're inevitably traded off for prospects.